Hi. I've been thinking about a lot of things lately. As you know, if you've seen any of my other videos, that I do a lot of thinking, probably too much thinking. And here's some of the things I've been thinking about, and I made notes because some of this is important, you know. So, I mean, if you want to take some notes, fine, but I need some notes so I can remember. As I get a little older, it's harder for me to remember. Okay, let's see, where should we start? Let's say a person is going to taking up skydiving, and they're about to make their first jump. And they're up in a plane at around 12,000 feet, and they're getting ready to step out the plane. They open the door for the plane. And the person tells you just wait a while until they tell you to step out. You know, fine. And while the door's open, you're standing at the door and you look out, and what you see is what you think is ground below. You're up at 12,000 feet. Some clouds go by you, things like that, and you think what you see is ground, but you're not sure what the hell you're looking at. But anyway, you look down and you see your parachute was made in China. Now be honest, how likely are you to take that step out of the plane having this information? Or are you going to start screaming and throw yourself into a spin and run back to your seat and hold on for dear life? And here's another thing. Now China has a big army, and I'm sure they have paratroopers like we have paratroopers in our army. Now if they are using for their paratroopers parachutes made in China, which they probably are, then I gotta believe that they're running out of soldiers at a pretty fast rate. You know, I mean, you don't hear anything from them because they're very secretive, but I gotta believe they're out there recruiting paratroopers on a daily basis. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, here's something interesting. Talk about words. The word nowhere. Now to me, I don't see how we even have a word called nowhere, because everybody's got to be somewhere. Either you're here or you're there, or you're there or you're here. You got to be somewhere. So this nowhere business I don't know about. Let's see, let me get my glasses on so I can see over here. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how things were named. I've been thinking a lot about how we name certain things. Now, for example, how did tissue paper get its name? My guess is, after I pondered this for a while, that it was probably invented by a woman. And quite possibly, her first name was Tissue. and her last name was Paper. Tissue paper. Got it? Okay. Now, another word, I think, another naming of a thing I was thinking about is the game of ping pong. Now, my guess is, again, and I pondered this also for quite a while, that this was invented by a man. And I've come up with this kind of scenario. First, he named it back and forth. Okay, so let's say he's playing with his friend. He got a table, he's showing his friend a game, and they're going, and his friend said, what are you going to call it? And he says, well, I'm going to call it back. I'm going to call it back and forth, you know. And they're playing for a while. The friend says, you know, I just don't think that does it. So the guy says, well, what do you think I should name it? Well, this guy who invented the game, his name was Gnip Gnop. First name was Gnip, and last name was Gnop. That's right, you got it right. Gnip Gnop, that was his name. Believe it or not, that was his name. Okay, so he said, well, the friend said, well, why don't you name it after yourself? Call it Gnip Gnop. So they played for a while, and the guy that invented the game said, you know, this just doesn't do it either. So they're playing for a while, then the friend said, hey listen, I got a real good idea. Why don't you spell Gnip Gnop backwards? And what do you got? You got ping pong. So he said, well, let's try it. So they started playing. Ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. So the guy that invented the game said, you know, I think you're onto something here. Ping pong, ping pong. I mean, that's my scenario of how the game got its name. Okay, let's see where we're at now. Okay, now I've seen a lot of stores as I drive down the street called resale shops, clothing resale shops. I'm sure you've all seen those stores. And a lot of them are named slightly used stores and gently used, things like that. And a lot of times they sell women's gowns, formal wear, men's suits, expensive stuff, inexpensive stuff. I've seen places that sell a lot of blue jeans, used blue jeans. But one thing I've never seen sold at these places is underwear. You know what I mean? And specifically, I mean shorts. Okay. Now, I don't quite understand it because these things could get expensive. Now, a lot of times you pull open, you're getting dressed in the morning, you pull open your drawer, you pull a pair of shorts out, and you look inside there, and you say, oh no, I can't wear these anymore. Even though they just came out of the washing machine. And you might have only worn them once or twice, you know. So now your alternatives are either to toss them or just don't wear them, you know. I guess you toss them. However, if we had a place where we can sell these things like a resale shop, if these slightly used places would take this in, it could be a win-win situation for both parties. For example, like I say, they're expensive. So the guy that owned them, that feels can't wear them anymore, you maybe can get $50 or $1 for them by selling them. And the guy that buys them, he's going to get an expensive pair of jockeys that might have cost a lot of money, and maybe they've only been worn once or twice, and he's not as discriminating. He could look inside there and say, hey, listen, you know what I mean? He's not a discriminating user, you know, so it's a win-win situation for both. Now, getting back to this underwear business, I've come up with another invention, and this I'm going to leave to the scientists out there to see if there's any merit to it. I'm thinking about, so we don't have to get to this point of reselling these things, that we can use them forever almost, you know, is having the seats coated with Teflon. You know, and they would never pick up a stain. For example, if you had the seats of your underwear coated with Teflon, you could probably fry an egg on there. and then just dip them in water and be clean. So, I mean, you'd never have to worry about staining your underwear, you know, and you can have them, you know, forever, no, for a long time anyway. But they say Teflon could be dangerous to the skin. I'm not sure about that. So, like I said before, I'm going to leave it to a scientist out there to look into this and figure out if Teflon is okay. If there are any scientists listening to this stuff, and if there are, I don't think I believe anything that they said.